The bus screeched to a halt under the blazing South Carolina sun. Dust swirled in the air, mingling with the faint smell of diesel and sweat. Dozens of nervous recruits stepped out, dragging their duffel bags and shouting to one another, their voices cracking with energy and fear. Among them was Emily Carter, standing still at the edge of the group, her green cap pulled low and her expression unreadable. She didn't rush or talk. She just stood there, watching everything, the sergeants barking orders, the chaos of new arrivals, the clash of boots and egos. Where others trembled or overcompensated with laughter, Emily was calm, almost too calm. "Move it, rookies. You're not on your couch anymore." Sergeant Rivera's voice thundered from across the courtyard. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and radiated authority. His eyes scanned the crowd, stopping briefly on Emily, the only one not fumbling, not panicking. He noticed the stillness, but said nothing. For now. Emily adjusted her bag and followed the group toward the barracks. Every footstep echoed like a drumbeat of beginning, the start of something she had both dreaded and longed for. Inside the barracks, the air was thick with noise and nerves. Recruits hurried to claim bunks, arguing over lockers and uniforms. Emily quietly chose a bed in the corner, near the window. The room buzzed with introductions. Where they were from, why they joined, what they hoped to become. Names Daniels, future ranger. One loud recruit announced, flexing his arms as if he were already wearing medals. Another, Peterson, laughed. "I'll make it to special forces before this guy finishes push-ups." The laughter rolled across the room like thunder, until someone noticed Emily sitting silently, folding her uniform with surgical precision. "Hey, ghost girl," Daniels called, grinning. "You gonna talk or just sit there like a statue?" Emily looked up for half a second, met his eyes, and went back to her folding. No reaction. Peterson chuckled. "Guess she's shy. Hope she doesn't freeze up when the bullets start flying." Their laughter came easy, cruel but typical, the kind of mocking soldiers used to hide their own fear. Emily said nothing. She'd heard worse before. She had grown up in Montana, deep in the woods, where silence wasn't a weakness, it was survival. Her father, Corporal John Carter, had been a Marine, tough, quiet, the kind of man who spoke more with his eyes than words. Before he passed away when she was 17, he trained her in everything he knew: tracking, shooting, endurance, discipline. When he was gone, silence became her closest friend. So when the mockery came, it didn't break her. It only reminded her why she was there. That night, as the recruits collapsed into their bunks, exhausted from hours of shouting and drills, Emily sat upright, staring out the window at the base, lights flickering across the field. The rhythmic sound of boots in the distance echoed memories of her father's steps. Calm, measured, deliberate. "Day one, and they already think you're nothing," she whispered to herself. Good. Let them think that. The next morning hit like thunder. Reveille. Everyone up. Sergeant Rivera's voice pierced the barracks before dawn. The recruits scrambled, half asleep, tripping over boots and belts. Emily was already up, bed made, uniform tight, boots polished. Rivera's sharp eyes caught it immediately. "Carter, huh? You've been up long?" "Yes, Sergeant," she replied, tone steady. He gave a curt nod. "Don't be too perfect. You'll make the others nervous." That drew chuckles from a few recruits. Emily ignored them. She wasn't there to compete for laughs. Outside, the morning was cool, but sweat came fast. Push-ups, runs, crawls, repetition. The sergeants barked, recruits grunted, and chaos ruled the field. Halfway through a mud crawl exercise, Emily slipped. Her rifle hit the ground. The metallic clink echoed, and everyone heard it. Daniels, of course, didn't miss his chance. "Hey, ghost girl." Maybe you should have stayed in your library instead of the army. Laughter spread like wildfire. Emily clenched her jaw, picked up the rifle, and continued crawling. She didn't speak, didn't react. She only moved forward, 1 inch at a time, eyes focused ahead. Rivera watched closely. Unlike the others, he didn't laugh. He saw something in her, not weakness, but control. There was no panic in her face, only calm. He scribbled a note on his clipboard. As the day dragged on, Emily stayed consistent. Not the fastest, not the strongest, but never quitting. When others complained of cramps or begged for breaks, she pushed through silently. That kind of quiet endurance unnerved people. During lunch, Peterson sat across from her, smirking. You think keeping your mouth shut makes you tough? Wait till live fire starts. You'll wish you'd learned to scream. Emily kept her eyes on her tray. I don't plan on screaming, she said softly. It was the first time they'd heard her voice, calm, confident, and oddly unshakable. The smirk on Peterson's face faltered just a little. By week's end, Emily had earned a strange reputation. She didn't talk, didn't joke, didn't break down. Some called her cold. Others thought she was arrogant. But Rivera noticed something else: discipline, patience, a rare mental toughness. One afternoon, during weapon assembly drills, he watched her work. While others fumbled and cursed at the stubborn rifle parts, Emily disassembled and reassembled hers blindfolded twice in perfect time. Where'd you learn that? Rivera asked. My father taught me, she said simply. There was something in her tone, not pride, but memory. Rivera didn't press further. Later that evening, he passed by the barracks and heard Daniels laughing again. Come on, Carter. You gotta lighten up. You're making the rest of us look bad. Emily glanced up from polishing her boots. If I make you look bad, she said, maybe you should work harder. The laughter died instantly. Daniels opened his mouth, then closed it again. No one had ever heard her speak like that, calm, cutting, and confident. Rivera overheard the exchange and smiled to himself. She's got backbone, he muttered. That night, as the lights went out, Emily lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The day's voices swirled in her head, the laughter, the mockery, the noise. But beneath it all, she heard her father's voice again. In war, the loudest ones fall first. Stay quiet, stay smart, and lead when no one else will. She turned to the window, watching the stars blink through the darkness. Somewhere deep down, she knew her silence wasn't a shield. It was a weapon waiting for its moment. The recruits could mock all they wanted. They could laugh, they could doubt, they could talk. Because one day soon, under the sound of real gunfire and real chaos, her silence would speak louder than any of them could imagine. The next dawn broke harder, faster. Rivera gathered the platoon near the obstacle course, voice booming. You think you're ready? You're not. You don't even know what ready looks like. As they lined up, Emily stood dead center, her gaze steady. Rivera's eyes caught hers again. Something in his gut told him she'd surprise them all. But even he didn't know how soon that surprise would come. For now, she was just a quiet recruit, silent, steady, underestimated. And that was exactly how she wanted it. The days rolled by like marching boots, heavy, loud, unrelenting. By the end of the second week at Fort Jackson, the recruits had settled into a rhythm. Some bonded over shared misery. Others formed small packs, laughing through exhaustion. And then there was Emily Carter, always apart from the noise. She moved with precision, her every motion deliberate, folding, training, cleaning, shooting. She spoke rarely, if ever. It wasn't shyness. It was focus. But to her platoon, silence was strange. And in a place where every weakness was magnified, difference invited ridicule. It started small. Whispers behind her back, smirks when she passed. "Hey, ghost girl," Danielle sneered one morning as they lined up for inspection. "You practicing for a mime show or something?" Peterson chuckled. "Nah, she's just scared to talk. Probably afraid her voice will crack." Emily didn't look up. She stood at attention, eyes fixed ahead, posture perfect. "Carter." Sergeant Rivera barked suddenly. "You deaf, recruit?" "No, Sergeant." "Then answer when you're spoken to." "Yes, Sergeant." Her voice was steady, but inside she felt a flicker of frustration. Rivera wasn't cruel. He was doing what drill sergeants do, but every word echoed the same challenge. "Speak up, Carter. Show them something." But Emily didn't want to show them anything. She wanted to earn it quietly, through actions, not noise. Still, the mockery worsened. During the morning run, Daniels intentionally slowed down near her. "Don't trip, Carter. We wouldn't want you breaking a nail." Peterson laughed so hard, he nearly lost breath. "She's probably running from butterflies, not bullets." The platoon laughed, and even Rivera's jaw tightened in irritation. "Enough chatter, move!" He barked, but the damage was done. Emily stayed silent, keeping her breathing even. In her mind, she counted, 1 breath per step. She focused not on their laughter, but on the horizon. Her father once told her, "Noise is a distraction. You can't hear the battlefield if you're busy talking." She wasn't about to let petty words shake her now. Later that day, during rifle training, the platoon lined up at the range. The air smelled of gunpowder and sunburned sand. Rivera shouted, "Targets at 200 meters. Ready, aim, fire." Dozens of rifles cracked in perfect rhythm, except one. Emily's rifle jammed on the second round. She tried to clear it, staying calm. But Daniels noticed immediately. "Careful, ghost girl. Don't hurt yourself, guns bite." Laughter again. Rivera glared at him, but Emily ignored it. She removed the magazine, cleared the chamber, inspected the bolt. Methodical, precise. The kind of patience only experience teaches. She reloaded, adjusted her sight, and fired. The shot hit dead center. The laughter stopped. Rivera noticed and said nothing, but the corner of his mouth twitched just slightly. When the training ended, the platoon walked back, grumbling about the heat. Daniels jogged up beside her. "Hey, Carter," he said, tone lighter now. "Nice shot back there. Didn't think you had it in you." Emily didn't look at him. "You think too much," she replied softly. Daniels blinked, caught off guard. "What's that supposed to mean?" She shrugged. "Thinking's loud. I prefer results." For the first time, Daniels didn't have a comeback. That night, the barracks buzzed with laughter and card games. Emily sat by her bunk, cleaning her weapon. The room reeked of sweat and detergent, but her focus never wavered. Peterson tossed a deck of cards toward her. "Come on, ghost girl. You gonna sit there polishing steel all night? Live a little." "No thanks," she replied, eyes on her rifle. Daniels leaned back in his bunk. "What's your deal, Carter? You some kind of robot? You ever even laugh?" Emily didn't answer. That silence, that unbothered calm, was infuriating. They wanted a reaction. They wanted proof that they'd gotten under her skin. But she never gave it. The laughter returned, louder, meaner. "Guess she thinks she's better than us," Peterson said. "Bet she won't last till live fire." At that, something flickered in Emily's eyes. Not anger, not fear, but determination. The next morning, Rivera called for a field navigation test. "Pairs," he shouted. "You'll find checkpoints using your maps and compasses. The woods don't care who you are. Move smart, move silent." Emily was paired with, of course, Daniels. "Just great," he muttered. Me and the ghost. Rivera handed them their coordinates and waved them off. The forest swallowed them quickly, the rest of the platoon disappearing behind the trees. Daniels tried to lead, but within 15 minutes, they were off course. He cursed under his breath, kicking a rock. Stupid compass. These woods are cursed. Emily checked the map. You read it wrong. We're supposed to go northeast, not west. Daniels frowned. I know how to read a compass. She pointed calmly. You're holding it upside down. He blinked, then laughed, embarrassed. Guess you're not as useless as I thought. Emily took point. She moved fast but quiet, scanning the terrain, marking landmarks in her head. Daniels followed reluctantly, watching her pace, the way she didn't hesitate at forks or second-guess her path. An hour later, they reached the final checkpoint, the first pair to finish. When they returned, Rivera raised an eyebrow. That was fast. Who led? Daniels hesitated, then sighed. Carter did, Sergeant. Rivera smiled faintly. Noted. Emily simply nodded, no pride in her expression, only calm satisfaction. But the rest of the platoon took notice. That evening, word spread quickly. Carter beat everyone? Peterson said in disbelief. No way. She didn't beat us, Daniels said, tossing his towel. She led. There's a difference. Peterson smirked. You sound impressed. Daniels shrugged. I'm just saying. She knows her stuff. Peterson scoffed, but the tension was clear. The once loud mockery had softened into grudging respect, though none would admit it. Emily didn't care either way. She sat outside the barracks, watching the sun set beyond the field. The air was warm and golden, the horizon painted with fading light. For a moment, she closed her eyes, hearing her father's voice again. If they doubt you, let them. One day, you'll lead them, not with words, but with actions. She smiled faintly. Almost there, Dad, she whispered. The following day, the recruits gathered at the range again, this time for team coordination drills. Rivera explained, Tomorrow's your first live fire simulation. You'll move, cover, and fire as one squad. If one of you messes up, the whole team pays. Understood? Yes, Sergeant. The group shouted, but tension rippled through the ranks. Live fire wasn't training anymore. It was real. Real bullets, real risk. Mistakes had consequences. As they practiced formations, Daniels whispered to Emily, You nervous? She glanced at him. Should I be? He chuckled. You're something else, Carter. By midday, their drills tightened. Emily's natural awareness shone through. She anticipated movements, corrected errors, and signaled adjustments instinctively. Rivera watched with growing interest. When they wrapped up, he called her over. Carter, he said quietly, you've got control, but you're holding back. You're too quiet. Leadership's not just about skill, it's about presence. Emily met his gaze. With respect, Sergeant, noise doesn't save lives. Clarity does. Rivera's lips curved into a rare grin. Fair point. Let's see if your clarity holds under fire. That night, as darkness cloaked the base, the barracks were restless. The recruits couldn't stop talking about tomorrow's live fire exercise. Some were nervous, others excited. Emily sat by her window, polishing her rifle again. The chatter faded behind her. Peterson called out from across the room, half joking, half curious. Hey, ghost girl. You scared? Emily turned slightly, her eyes calm, reflective. Fear's normal, she said softly. What matters is what you do after it hits. No one laughed this time. Daniels leaned back on his bunk, staring at her thoughtfully. You know, Carter, he said, maybe you're not the ghost after all. She gave a small, quiet smile. Maybe you just haven't seen what I can do yet. And as the night deepened, silence filled the barracks. Not the mocking kind, but the heavy stillness before something big. The quiet recruit everyone doubted had begun to change the air around her. Tomorrow, under real bullets and fire, that silence would finally speak. The wind off the training field carried the smell of cordite and red clay. The day's drills had ended hours ago, but the noise of laughter and shouting from the barracks still spilled into the night. Inside, the recruits were celebrating surviving another brutal day, everyone except Emily Carter. She sat on her bunk, staring at her boots, hearing every cruel joke replay in her mind. Ghost girl, library soldier, scared to talk. The words weren't sharp anymore. They were dull, tired echoes. But one voice lingered louder than the rest, her father's. Quiet isn't weakness. Quiet just means you're listening. She looked down at her hands, raw from drills. Blisters had split, small beads of blood dotting her knuckles. Her rifle lay disassembled on the blanket, every piece clinged to a mirror shine. She could see her reflection in the metal. Calm face, unreadable eyes. It wasn't pride she felt. It was pressure, something coiled deep in her chest, waiting. Across the room, Daniels and Peterson were arguing over cards. Come on, Nan. I had the straight. Like hell you did. The room burst into laughter again. Emily stood quietly, buckled her rifle strap, and walked out without a word. Outside, the air was cold and damp. The floodlights from the range cut pale cones through the fog. Beyond them, darkness thick, endless, silent. She crossed the gravel yard and slipped through the wire gate toward the obstacle course. No one stopped her. No one even noticed. A mud pit still glistened from the afternoon rain. She dropped flat and started crawling. The cold water seeped through her uniform, biting her skin. Barbed wire sliced just inches above her back, but she didn't flinch. She crawled again, and again. Each push forward felt like an answer to every insult, every sneer. Her breath came hard. Her heart pounded in rhythm with the night insects. By the fifth lap, her arms trembled. She kept going. When she finally stood, her knees were caked in mud, her hair plastered to her face. She looked up at the shooting range beyond the field. Targets lined the distance, faint, ghostly silhouettes in the dark. She raised her rifle, steadied her breathing, and fired single rounds, click, slide, fire, eject. The sound echoed across the empty base like distant thunder. She wasn't supposed to be out here, but she needed this. From the watchtower, Sergeant Rivera leaned on the railing, coffee in hand. He'd been reviewing tomorrow's live fire plan when he heard the faint shots. For a moment, he thought it was a guard. Then he saw movement, small, deliberate, low to the ground. A lone figure crawling through the mud in the middle of the night. Carter, he muttered. He watched her work for nearly 20 minutes. No theatrics, no frustration, just repetition and precision. The recruits who burned bright during the day were snoring now, but the quiet one was out there, perfecting every motion. Rivera smiled faintly. Discipline doesn't shout, he thought. It whispers. He didn't interrupt. He simply turned off the tower light and let her train in darkness. By dawn, Emily was back in her bunk, uniform spotless, boots lined. When the wake-up call hit, she was already tying her hair back. Daniels groaned from the next bunk. You ever sleep, ghost girl? Sometimes, she said, expression neutral. That morning's drills were rough, long sprints, followed by endurance crawls. But something had changed. Emily's movements were sharper, faster. She didn't lag behind anymore. She led. Rivera's whistle cut the air. Carter, front of the line. Daniels whispered, "Oh, she's the teacher's pet now." But as soon as the test began, they stopped laughing. Emily hit every marker, every target, every climb. When the final buzzer blared, she stood panting but steady, mud streaking her face like camouflage paint. Rivera nodded once, the faintest approval. Peterson frowned. Guess she's not so quiet anymore. Daniels shot him a glare. Yeah, guess not. That night, the barracks were quieter. The jokes came softer now, uncertain. Emily sat cleaning her rifle again, but this time, Daniels approached with 2 mugs of instant coffee. Peace offering, he said. I think you earned it. She looked up, hesitant, then accepted. The coffee was bitter, but it felt good. Daniels leaned against the bunk post. You train at night, don't you? Emily blinked. Why do you say that? Because nobody gets that good overnight. She didn't answer. He grinned. Don't worry. I won't tell Rivera. Just don't burn yourself out, okay? Emily nodded once. You should try it sometime. Daniels laughed softly. Maybe I will. For the first time, the air between them wasn't mockery. It was respect, quiet, and cautious. 2 days later came the Lev fire briefing. Rivera stood before the platoon, clipboard in hand. Tomorrow, you'll experience real rounds overhead. You'll crawl, move, and communicate as a unit. Panic gets people hurt. Discipline keeps them alive. Understood? Yes, Sergeant. Good, because if one of you freezes, you'll all pay. He scanned their faces. Some looked confident, others pale. Emily's expression didn't change. After dismissal, Peterson nudged Daniels. You think Ghost Girl's ready for that? Daniels shot him a look. She's more ready than you'll ever be. Peterson rolled his eyes. We'll see. Emily heard them, but she didn't care. She was already running through formations in her head angles, cover points, timing. She remembered her father's voice again. When fear hits, slow down, breathe. The world gets quieter right before the shot. That night she returned to the field again, but this time she wasn't alone. Daniels followed quietly, carrying his rifle. I figured I'd see what you do out here, he said. Emily smirked faintly. You'll regret it. They trained for hours, crawling, signaling, correcting each other's stance. Under the pale moonlight, sweat and mud blurred into one. By the end, Daniels was exhausted, lying flat on his back. You're insane, he panted. But, damn, you're good. Emily shrugged. Just prepared. Back at the watchtower, Rivera watched again, unseen. He shook his head, smiling to himself. Carter's building soldiers while they sleep, he whispered. He knew then that tomorrow's exercise would test more than skill. It would reveal who truly led when fear took over. Morning arrived heavy with humidity and tension. The recruits lined up at the firing field, live rounds loaded. The staccato bark of gunfire echoed from distant ranges. Rivera paced in front of them. Today, he said, you stop being recruits. You become soldiers who trust each other. He stopped directly in front of Emily. Carter. You ready? Yes, Sergeant. Good. Don't let them down. His words weren't just instruction. They were a challenge. The recruits exchanged nervous glances. Peterson cracked his knuckles. Daniels adjusted his helmet strap. Emily stood still, hands steady, mind silent. Rivera raised the red flag. On my mark, 3, 2, 1. Move! Gunfire roared. Dirt kicked up around them as real bullets screamed overhead. The squad hit the ground, chaos instantly taking hold. Someone shouted wrong directions. Someone else froze. Within seconds, formation collapsed. Daniels yelled, "Where's cover?" Emily scanned the field, the trenches, the smoke, the scattered silhouettes. Her pulse slowed, her breathing deepened. She could see everything clearly now. Every mistake, every danger. It wasn't panic she felt. It was clarity. Left flank. She shouted over the noise. Cover fire, move. Her voice strong, commanding, unmistakable cut through the thunder of rounds. The recruits obeyed instinctively. Even Peterson moved without question. Rivera's eyes widened from the observation post. There it is, he whispered. When the smoke cleared, the squad regrouped behind the final barricade, chests heaving. They had completed the course faster than any platoon that month. No injuries. No panic. Emily lowered her rifle slowly, mud dripping from her sleeves. She turned to the others, her calm eyes scanning their faces. Daniels grinned through the exhaustion. You just saved our asses, Ghost Girl. Peterson exhaled, shaking his head. Guess the quiet ones really are the dangerous ones. For the first time since she'd arrived, laughter rippled not cruel, but genuine, light, relieved. Rivera approached, boots crunching through the dirt. He studied her for a long moment before speaking. Carter, he said evenly, what you did out there, most soldiers don't find that kind of composure for years. Emily nodded. Just doing my part, Sergeant. He chuckled softly. You did more than that. As he walked away, the recruits followed Emily back toward the barracks, quieter now, thoughtful. The mocking had ended, not because she demanded respect, but because she'd earned it. And deep down, Emily knew this was only the beginning. The battlefield would get louder, harder, real. But when the next storm came, she would meet it the same way she met the darkness tonight, silent, steady, unshaken. Morning sunlight broke through the clouds, casting a golden haze over Fort Wilcox. The air was still, almost peaceful, a sharp contrast to the chaos of the Lev fire exercise the day before. The squad had performed better than anyone expected, and word of their flawless run had spread fast. In the mess hall, recruits whispered while eating. Did you hear? Carter took command mid-fire. No way, Rivera let her. He didn't need to. She just did. At the far end of the room, Emily sat with her tray, eating quietly. The noise around her didn't matter anymore. The same recruits who once mocked her now gave small nods of acknowledgement. Daniel sat beside her, grinning like he'd won the lottery. Guess you're famous now, he said between bites. She raised an eyebrow. Famous for yelling at you under gunfire? Hey, he said, laughing, I take orders well from people who save my life. For the first time, Emily smiled, small, fleeting, but real. Rivera entered, clipboard in hand, eyes scanning the tables. The hall fell silent. He motioned toward Emily. Carter. With me. Daniels whistled low. Uh-oh, the sergeant wants a word. Hope it's not about the mud still on your boots. She stood, leaving her tray untouched, and followed Rivera out into the brisk morning air. They walked along the gravel path toward the training office. Rivera didn't speak for a while. The sound of boots crunching underfoot filled the quiet. Finally, he said, You did something yesterday that I've seen lieutenants fail to do. Emily looked straight ahead. Sir, you kept your people alive. You didn't freeze. You took control when everyone else panicked. That's leadership. Thank you, Sergeant. He stopped walking and turned to her. But that wasn't the real test. She frowned slightly. It wasn't? Rivera shook his head. Yesterday was controlled chaos. Real combat doesn't ask for permission. It hits when you're tired, hungry, and already at your limit. Which is why tomorrow. He paused. You're leading the night operation drill. Her eyes widened slightly. I'm leading? Yes, full command. Navigation, formation, communication. You'll guide your team through live terrain under simulated enemy fire. No instructor stepping in. Emily hesitated. Sergeant, with respect, I'm still a recruit. He smiled faintly. So were half the heroes I served with. The point isn't your rank. It's whether people follow when it counts. And they will. She swallowed hard, nodding. Understood. Good. Get your team ready. You have 24 hours. When she returned to the barracks, the others looked up expectantly. Daniel spoke first. So, what did he say? Emily took a slow breath. We've got a night op drill tomorrow. I'm leading it. Peterson blinked. Wait, you? Yes, she said simply. We start prep tonight. For a moment, silence hung in the air. Then Daniels clapped his hands. Well, hell. If Ghost Girl's leading, I'm in. Let's move. Peterson muttered under his breath. Guess we're taking orders from the quiet one now. Emily didn't react. She pulled a map from her pack and spread it across the table. We're here, she said, pointing to the training base perimeter. We need to navigate through the mock village, secure the objective, and extract, all without triggering the perimeter sensors. Daniels leaned closer. So stealth and speed. Exactly. She assigned positions. Daniels on flank, Peterson on rear guard, Mitchell on comms. She spoke calmly, explaining every detail, every risk. Her voice was steady, not loud, but confident enough that no one interrupted. By midnight, they had memorized the route. The following evening, the squad stood in full gear under the dim floodlights. The wind had picked up, carrying the metallic scent of rain. The sky was a deep indigo, thick with clouds. Rivera approached, clipboard in hand. Carter, you've got 1 hour to complete the mission. Simulated enemy patrols will be active. Infrared drones will track your movement. Make a sound, show a light, or hesitate too long, and you fail. Clear? Clear, Sergeant? He gave her a sharp nod. Then move. Emily raised her hand, signaling forward. The squad slipped into the dark like shadows. The first mile was quiet, too quiet. The forest beyond the range was dense, branches clawing at their uniforms. Rain began to drizzle, soft but cold. Mud clung to their boots, every step muffled. Daniels whispered, "Feels too easy." "Stay low," Emily murmured. They reached the first ridge. Through her scope, she spotted movement. 2 figures in tactical black moving in a slow sweep. Simulated hostiles. Their flashlights cut thin white beams through the trees. 2 o'clock, Emily whispered. Hold position. The squad froze. Rain dripped from leaves, tapping helmets. The patrol passed just 20 feet away, close enough for Emily to hear one man cough. When they vanished, she exhaled slowly. Move. They slid downhill toward the creek, water lapping at their boots. The current was stronger than expected, forcing them to link arms to cross safely. Halfway through, Peterson slipped. His gear hit the water with a loud splash. Emily spun instantly. Down. The squad hit the mud. Lights flared in the distance. The patrol had heard. Peterson, stay still, she hissed. The hostile searchlights swept closer. Emily's pulse pounded in her ears. She could almost feel Rivera watching through the drones. When the beams passed, she motioned. We can't cross here. New route. Daniels frowned. That'll cost time. I know. But we'll stay unseen. They looped south, crawling through dense underbrush. The rain turned into a steady pour. Thunder rolled faintly across the horizon. Emily checked her compass. 5 minutes off schedule. She didn't rush. Panic led to mistakes. Finally, they reached the mock village, a cluster of plywood structures used for urban drills. Every window glowed faintly with simulated enemy lighting. The objective, marked by a blue flare, was in the center. Daniels whispered, "That's a death trap." Emily studied the angles. "We'll split. Daniels, you and Peterson create diversion west side. Mitchell with me on approach." Daniels nodded. "Copy." She waited until thunder rolled again, then signaled. The noise masked their movement perfectly. Daniels' team tossed 2 flash charges west. The pop echoed like gunfire. The hostiles turned instantly toward the sound. Emily and Mitchell darted through the open street, mud splashing at their boots. They reached the target, a steel case representing intel retrieval, and secured it. "Objective in hand," Mitchell whispered. "Now extract." They turned to retreat, but a flare burst overhead, flooding the village in red light. "Contact!" Someone shouted in the distance. Emily didn't think, she acted. "Move east. Smoke out." Mitchell hurled a smoke canister, fog swallowing the street. Bullets from training rounds pinged against walls. Daniel's voice crackled through the coms. "We're pinned, East Alley." Emily pivoted instantly. "On me." She sprinted toward the alley, rounds hissing through the haze. She dropped behind a barrel, spotting Daniels crouched with Peterson behind cover. "We're surrounded," he yelled. She scanned quickly. 3 hostiles advancing. She raised her rifle, fired short controlled bursts, each shot clean. One by one, the hostile sensors blinked red, eliminated. "Go! Go!" she shouted. They dashed through the smoke toward the ridge. The final stretch was uphill and slick with rain. Mud sucked at their boots, thunder shook the sky, and their lungs burned. But Emily didn't slow down. 10 meters. Mitchell gasped. Rivera's voice echoed faintly over the intercom. 30 seconds remaining. Emily's heart hammered. The extraction zone glowed ahead, a strobing green beacon in the mud. "Last push," she shouted. The squad stumbled, slipped, and collapsed over the finish line as the timer blared. Mission complete. Floodlights snapped on. Rivera approached, rain dripping from his cap. He looked down at the exhausted team, then at Emily, still catching her breath, but upright. 59 minutes, he said. No casualties. No breaches. And you adapted under fire. Peterson looked up weakly. So, we passed? Rivera chuckled. You didn't just pass. You set the new base record. Cheers erupted, tired but fierce. Daniels threw his helmet in the mud, laughing. You hear that, Ghost Girl? We're legends now. Emily smiled faintly. The mud, the rain, the exhaustion. It was all worth it. Rivera leaned closer, voice low. Carter, you've got something rare. You don't shout to lead. People just follow you. She nodded once, quietly. Thank you, Sergeant. He gave her a firm pat on the shoulder. Get some rest. You'll need it. The colonel's asked to see you tomorrow. Emily blinked. The colonel? Word spreads fast around here. As Rivera walked away, the squad gathered around her, still panting, still laughing. Daniels nudged her shoulder. So, what do we call you now? Still Ghost Girl? She smirked. No, just Carter. That night, lying in her bunk, Emily stared at the ceiling, hearing the rain tap softly on the windows. For the first time, she didn't feel like the quiet outsider. She felt like a soldier, one who had found her voice not in shouting, but in calm under fire. Tomorrow would bring a new challenge. She could feel it. The base didn't just see her as a recruit anymore. They saw a leader. And that meant the real test was only beginning. The next morning, Fort Wilcox awoke under a gray sky, heavy with tension. Rain from the previous night had left the grounds slick and muddy. Rumors spread quickly through the barracks. The colonel was coming to observe the squad during their follow-up exercise. The recruits whispered nervously. "Colonel McAllister?" Peterson muttered. "The one who tours only top-performing squads?" Daniels shrugged. "Guess Ghost Girl really did something right." Emily, sitting on her bunk quietly, packed her gear without a word. The chatter around her was loud, but she remained unshaken. She knew this wasn't about being noticed. It was about proving herself under scrutiny, under pressure, where mistakes could be fatal. Rivera appeared at the door, voice sharp but approving. "Carter, squad's ready. Move out." Emily rose, her posture perfect. The others followed instinctively. Her calm authority was now magnetic. Even Peterson hesitated before giving a sarcastic remark. The squad moved to the training grounds, boots splashing through the mud. The colonel's Humvee sat waiting, engine running, lights off. McAllister, a stern woman with decades of field experience, stepped out. Her eyes swept the platoon like a hawk. "Sergeant Rivera," she said curtly, "I've heard reports of a recruit leading under fire." Rivera nodded. "Yes, ma'am. She's ready for evaluation." Emily's stomach tightened, but she didn't falter. Standing at attention, she saluted. "Yes, ma'am." McAllister studied her silently, expression unreadable. Then, without a word, she motioned for the squad to begin the drill. The exercise was simple in theory. Secure a building, clear hostiles, and extract a simulated hostage. In reality, it was chaos. Smoke grenades, timed distractions, and unpredictable enemy movement. Most squads would break under the pressure. Emily scanned the field. Her eyes caught every detail. Positions of the hostiles, lines of sight, weak cover spots, timing of the smoke. She barked clear, concise commands. "Left flank, cover me. Right rear, suppressing fire." Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried authority. The squad moved as one, each member instinctively following her lead. Daniels whispered mid-move, "She's different." Emily didn't respond, only adjusted the team formation, keeping them safe as simulated rounds whizzed past. Halfway through, the exercise took an unexpected turn. One of the hostiles captured Mitchell, the comm specialist, dragging him behind cover. "Hostile breach." Mitchell down. Peterson shouted, panic creeping in. Emily's eyes narrowed. "Form a wedge. Keep suppressing fire. I'll retrieve him." The squad froze for a split second, unsure. But Emily's calm determination cut through the hesitation. "Move now, or he doesn't make it." Daniels and Peterson followed her through a narrow alley, mud and debris soaking their uniforms. Emily led the way, ducking behind barrels, sliding through puddles, her rifle steady. Each shot she took was precise, clearing the path for extraction. She reached Mitchell, lifted him, and signaled the others. "Cover fire, go." Together, they sprinted through the smoke, bullets and simulated explosions echoing around them. The squad made it to the extraction point, panting and soaked in mud. McAllister stepped forward, eyes wide with disbelief. "Carter," she said, voice low but firm, "I've seen lieutenants falter under less pressure. You just managed a crisis flawlessly, as a recruit." Emily lowered her rifle slowly, still catching her breath. "Just following protocol, ma'am?" "No," McAllister said, shaking her head. "You did more than follow protocol. You improvised. You led. You saved your team from making mistakes they didn't even realize were dangerous." The squad looked at her in awe. The same people who had once mocked her now stared with a mixture of fear, admiration, and respect. Daniels nudged Peterson. "Guess we've got a new legend on base." Peterson shook his head, muttering, "Never thought I'd say this, but..." She earned it. Rivera stepped forward, clapping once. All right, team. Good work. Colonel McAllister? She smiled faintly, a rare, approving smile. Your squad has potential. But Carter? She has instinct. That's not taught in books. That's lived, felt, and honed. Watch her. Learn from her. One day, she may lead you all for real. The recruit stood silently, the weight of her words sinking in. Emily shifted slightly, uncomfortable with the tension, but allowed herself a small smile. She didn't need applause. The mission had been enough. After a moment, the colonel stepped back, allowing the squad to regroup. Rivera turned to Emily. Carter, get some rest. You've earned it, but keep your focus. Challenges get harder from here. Emily nodded. Yes, Sergeant. Back at the barracks, the atmosphere had changed entirely. The squad no longer whispered mockery. They followed her quietly, watching, learning. Daniels approached her while Peterson cleaned his rifle. You ever think of joining Special Forces? He asked. Emily shrugged. Not yet. Just focusing on today. He grinned. Well, if you ever do, you'll scare everyone else half to death. Emily chuckled faintly. Maybe, but the goal isn't to scare. It's to survive and make sure everyone else does too. Mitchell, still shaken from the simulated hostage crisis, piped up. You saved my ass back there. I don't know what I'd have done without you. Emily nodded calmly. You'd have done fine eventually. But why risk it? The team shared a quiet laugh, bonding over exhaustion and relief. The rain outside had stopped, leaving a crisp scent of wet earth and pine. That evening, Emily walked alone to the training field. She stared at the mud, the footprints from the day's chaos. Every step, every maneuver, every decision replayed in her mind. Her father's voice returned in her thoughts. When fear hits, you don't run. You plan. You act. And when the world panics, you lead. She touched the handle of her rifle gently, remembering his lessons in the woods. Patience, precision, observation. That training had saved lives today. Her quiet determination had transformed mockery into respect. She knew tomorrow would bring new drills, new challenges. But for the first time, she felt invincible. Not because she was fearless, but because she had control. And control, she realized, was more powerful than any weapon. As night fell over Fort Wilcox, the squad slept, exhausted but safe. Emily stayed awake for a while longer, scanning maps and memorizing coordinates for future exercises. The quiet recruit, who had once been mocked, now had the trust of her team, the attention of command, and the knowledge that under fire, she could hold it all together. This was the turning point. From here, there was no going back. Emily Carter had begun to write her legacy, and it was only just beginning. Night had fallen like a velvet curtain over Fort Wilcox. The base was quiet, except for distant lights blinking across the training fields. The air was thick with anticipation and a biting chill, the kind that cut through even the thickest uniform. Emily Carter crouched behind a low wall of sandbags, rifle ready, eyes scanning every shadow. This wasn't a drill. At least, it felt that way. Rivera had warned them that tonight's exercise would push them to the limits, simulated ambushes, unpredictable enemy fire, and the constant pressure of real-time decision-making. But Emily sensed it was more than that. Somewhere deep inside, she felt the scenario had been designed to break her confidence, to test if the quiet recruit could truly lead. Daniels crouched beside her, glancing nervously at the dense tree line. You sure about this route? He whispered. Emily didn't flinch. Trust me. I've studied the maps, memorized patrol schedules. We move as I say. Focus on your lane. Peterson huffed. I still don't get how a recruit is calling the shots here. Emily's gaze cut through the dim light. Because the squad survives only if we move as one. That's leadership, not rank. The squad slipped into the trees, mud sucking at their boots. Every sound, a snapping branch, a distant owl, a droplet of water hitting leaves, set nerves on edge. Emily's mind was calm, calculating. She mapped every potential ambush, every escape route, every high ground advantage. 5 minutes into the operation, chaos hit. A loud explosion echoed to the east. Simulated fire, but realistic. A squad member down. Mitchell, the cone specialist, fell as a flash charge detonated near his position. Suppressing fire. Emily shouted. Her voice was calm, but commanding. Cover him. Daniels, Peterson, move. The squad fired controlled bursts into the mock enemy positions. Bullets whizzed past, kicking mud, creating the perfect illusion of a chaotic firefight. Emily didn't panic. Every movement had purpose. Every command had clarity. She reached Mitchell and dragged him to cover, keeping her eyes on the surroundings. Stay low. Keep quiet. We move on my count. Mitchell nodded, trembling. I thought I was dead. You wouldn't be, Emily replied calmly. Not today. The team moved deeper into the training field, a maze of broken buildings, fallen trees, and mud-filled trenches. Enemy patrols emerged unexpectedly. Emily spotted 2 silhouettes advancing from the north. 3 o'clock. Ambush, she yelled. Daniels and Peterson fired suppressive rounds, keeping the figures pinned. Emily assessed the angles. Cover, retreat, alternate path. Her heart raced, but her breathing remained steady. Left flank, she commanded. Mitchell with me. Daniels, cover rear. Peterson, support fire if we engage. Move. The squad executed perfectly, moving through the mud like ghosts in the dark. Emily's awareness allowed her to anticipate enemy movement. Every threat was neutralized before it became deadly. By now, the team trusted her implicitly. Even the former skeptics, Peterson included, followed her without question. Then the unexpected happened. From the shadows, a simulated explosive, part of the training scenario, detonated directly in their path. The blast sent debris flying, knocking Peterson to the ground. Daniel's leg was grazed by a non-lethal round, forcing him to stumble. Mitchell panicked briefly, almost losing his footing. Emily froze only for a heartbeat, enough to process everything. Her mind mapped solutions, prioritized actions. Peterson secured, Daniels stabilized, Mitchell guided. Down. Everyone down. She shouted. She used her rifle as support to pull Peterson up. Danielle's leg? Shift weight, keep moving. Mitchell, follow my steps exactly. With measured precision, she led them through a narrow alley to a safer position behind a collapsed wall. Rain-slicked mud made every movement treacherous. Bullets, training rounds but terrifyingly realistic, splashed against the walls around them. Her voice never faltered. Stay calm. Focus. One step at a time. We move together. Follow me. The team's confidence surged under her command. They followed, trusting her judgment implicitly. Emily's strategic mind allowed her to calculate angles of exposure, optimal retreat paths, and suppression points without hesitation. Every time a threat emerged, she countered it immediately, clearing paths, redirecting her squad, keeping them alive. From the observation post, Rivera watched, silent and impressed. He'd never seen such instinctive command from a recruit. The way she anticipated enemy patterns, protected her squad, and maintained composure under simulated fire was beyond what he expected from even seasoned soldiers. The squad moved like a single organism, Emily as its heart, calculating and directing, beating steadily despite chaos around them. Finally, they reached the extraction zone, a clearing lit by dim flares. The green beacon of safety glowed faintly in the rain. Emily signaled the squad to regroup. They had cleared obstacles, avoided ambushes, and neutralized threats with minimal simulated injuries. The moment was tense. All around, water dripped from leaves. Rain slicked mud-soaked boots and uniforms. Exhaustion was visible on every face. But the squad was intact. Emily lowered her rifle, mud streaking her cheeks. She looked at her team, each one alive, each one trusting her. Daniels breathed heavily, but managed a grin. Ghost girl. You did it again. Peterson, begrudgingly impressed, muttered, I still can't believe it. You really are good. Mitchell, still shaking, whispered, I wouldn't be here without you. Emily nodded quietly. You'd have done it eventually. I just made sure. From the observation post, Colonel McAllister stepped forward, finally speaking. Her voice cut through the night. Carter, report. Emily straightened, voice steady. Ma'am, mission objectives completed. No squad member left behind. Route secured. Extraction successful. Threats neutralized. The colonel studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled faintly, a rare, approving smile. You have exceptional instincts, Carter. You led under pressure most experienced officers would crumble under. Take a moment to appreciate that, then get ready. Your journey is just beginning. Rivera gave a short salute. Yes, ma'am. Back at the barracks, Emily sat quietly, finally letting herself relax. Her uniform was torn, soaked in mud, her hands bruised and blistered, but she felt exhilarated. This was more than training. It was a proof of everything she had worked for. Every silent night of practice, every mockery endured, every calculation and preparation had led to this moment. Daniels plopped down beside her. You know, I thought last night was intense. Tonight, next level. Emily smirked faintly. Keep up. We'll have another challenge soon. Peterson shook his head. I don't think I can keep up with you, Carter. You just think differently. I'm not thinking differently, she said quietly. I'm thinking clearly. The team shared a quiet, exhausted laugh. Outside, the rain had stopped. The night was still, but something had changed. A newfound respect, a newfound trust, a newfound understanding that Emily Carter was no longer the quiet recruit. She was the leader they followed, without question. As Emily lay in her bunk that night, staring at the ceiling, she reflected on everything she had learned. Leadership wasn't about rank or recognition. It was about calm under fire, clarity of thought, and the courage to act decisively when chaos erupted. The team had trusted her, and she had delivered. Somewhere deep inside, she felt a shift. No longer the silent observer, no longer the one mocked or overlooked. Tonight, she had proven not only to her squad, but to herself that she was capable of extraordinary control under pressure. The moment of truth had come, and Emily had passed. But she knew the real battles were still ahead, and when they came, she would be ready. The sun rose over Fort Wilcox, casting long shadows across the wet training grounds. Mud and puddles reflected the early morning light, and the air smelled of damp earth and pine. Emily Carter stepped out of the barracks, boots crunching over gravel, still exhausted but awake with purpose. The events of the previous night had left an indelible mark. Word had spread fast. The quiet recruit who had led her squad, flawlessly under fire, had captured the attention of the colonel and every officer on base. As she approached the mess hall, she noticed the difference immediately. The squad, who once whispered behind her back, now offered nods of respect. No jokes, no mockery, only quiet acknowledgement. Even Peterson, usually gruff and skeptical, gave a slight nod of approval. Daniels caught up beside her, still grinning. I can't believe last night. I mean, the colonel personally said that? Emily shrugged, quietly. We did what we trained to do. That's all. Daniels shook his head. Nah, Carter. That was more than training. You led under real pressure. No hesitation, no mistakes. Everyone saw it. At breakfast, the barracks buzzed with rumors. Recruits whispered about Carter's actions, some in awe, others in disbelief. Did you see how she handled the ambush? One recruit asked. She's insane, another replied. Calm as if it's nothing. Emily ate quietly, letting the chatter wash over her. She didn't need validation. The satisfaction of knowing she had protected her squad, guided them, and succeeded under extreme conditions was enough. Rivera entered the hall, clipboard in hand, scanning the recruits. His eyes locked on Emily. Carter, a word, he said, his tone serious but approving. She followed him outside, past the muddy grounds toward the training office. Inside the office, Colonel McAllister waited. Rivera stood at attention beside her. The room was stark, functional, with maps on the walls and the faint smell of coffee lingering. Emily saluted. Carter, the colonel said, studying her carefully, what you accomplished last night was exceptional. You took command, navigated unforeseen challenges, and ensured the squad's safety. Not only that, you did it as a recruit. Most officers with years of experience would have faltered. Emily's eyes remained steady. Thank you, ma'am. I followed the protocols and made sure my team stayed safe. McAllister's stern expression softened. Protocols are one thing, Carter. Leadership is another. What you demonstrated is rare. Composure under fire, decisiveness, and tactical awareness. You earned my respect. You earned theirs. Rivera cleared his throat. Ma'am, if I may, the squad now views her as their de facto leader. Even recruits who doubted her follow her instructions without hesitation. The colonel nodded slowly. Then it's time to recognize that officially. Later that day, the squad gathered for a formal briefing. The colonel entered, flanked by Rivera and other senior officers. Silence fell immediately, every eye fixed on Emily. Recruits, the colonel began, voice commanding. Tonight, we witnessed exemplary leadership. One of your own, Emily Carter, demonstrated what it means to lead under pressure. She ensured her team's survival, guided them through a live fire scenario, and completed every objective flawlessly. Effective immediately, Carter will serve as your team leader for all upcoming operations. Understood? Yes, ma'am. The squad responded in unison. Daniels shot Emily a grin. Looks like you're officially in charge now, Ghost Girl. Emily shook her head, a faint smile touching her lips. Just Carter. Let's focus on the mission. Even Peterson, who had once doubted her, stepped forward and offered a rare grin. All right, Carter. Lead the way. The recognition brought a new energy to the squad. Training exercises became more fluid, more synchronized. Emily's calm authority allowed her team to anticipate threats, cover one another effectively, and adapt to unexpected challenges. Mistakes that might have caused panic before were now handled with precision. Rivera observed quietly, impressed by how smoothly the squad moved. She's changing the entire dynamic, he muttered to McAllister, who watched from the observation window. Yes, McAllister replied. She doesn't just lead. She elevates everyone around her. That's rare in a soldier, even among seasoned officers. Despite the recognition, Emily remained grounded. That evening, she gathered the squad for a debrief. Maps were spread across a table, markers indicating positions, threats, and possible alternate routes. Tonight, we'll review last night's exercise, she said calmly. We'll identify points of improvement. We succeeded, but there's always room to refine our movements, increase coordination, and anticipate threats better. Every member contributed, and every member's input matters. For the first time, even the most skeptical recruits leaned in, eager to discuss strategy. Emily listened intently, responding with clarity and focus. She acknowledged every idea, every suggestion, reinforcing that leadership wasn't about ego, it was about collaboration. Daniels whispered, "She's different. She makes you want to do better." Peterson smirked, reluctantly agreeing. "Yeah, I don't like it, but she's right." The following day brought an unexpected challenge. The squad was tasked with a high-intensity simulation that included live fire maneuvers, hostage extraction, and obstacle navigation under timed conditions. Rumors had circulated that other teams had failed miserably under this scenario. Emily's squad approached the training field with quiet determination. The team was disciplined, their movements synchronized, their trust in each other unwavering. As the simulation began, chaos erupted almost immediately. Hostile forces engaged from multiple angles, flash grenades detonated, and smoke filled the area. Emily's voice cut through the mayhem, issuing concise commands. "Left flank. Cover fire. Move. Follow the extraction route. Suppressing fire on my mark." Her calm under pressure inspired confidence. Even when Peterson stumbled, she was there to guide him. When Daniels panicked briefly, she issued a clear, calculated command to bring him back into formation. The simulation pushed them to the edge. Rain turned mud into a slippery hazard. Debris from obstacles and mock explosions littered the course. But Emily remained steady. Her focus, her situational awareness, and her tactical thinking allowed the squad to navigate the chaos efficiently. By the end of the exercise, they had successfully completed every objective, extracted the hostage safely, and avoided unnecessary casualties. Even the toughest officers, observing from the control tower, were impressed. Colonel McAllister approached afterward, voice filled with admiration. "Carter, your leadership under continuous pressure is exemplary. You've taken a skeptical squad and forged them into a cohesive, effective unit. You've set a standard for all recruits." Emily nodded quietly. "Thank you, ma'am. I couldn't have done it without the team." Daniels nudged her as they walked back to the barracks. "You know, you've changed everything around here." Peterson grumbled. Yeah. You earned it. Don't get cocky." Emily smiled faintly. "Not cocky, just focused." That night, the barracks were quieter than usual. Recruits reflected on the events, realizing that the quiet recruit they once mocked had transformed into a capable, respected leader. Emily lay on her bunk, staring at the ceiling, replaying every decision, every movement, every command. Her father's words echoed in her mind. "When the world panics, you lead. When fear strikes, you act." That's how a soldier survives, and how she leads. Emily understood now that leadership was more than giving orders. It was about inspiring trust, maintaining composure, and acting decisively when others faltered. She had proven herself not only to her squad, but to herself. The aftermath of her success was clear: respect, trust, and recognition. But Emily knew that true challenges were still ahead. The battlefield, real or simulated, would always test her resolve. And she would meet it head-on, just as she had from the very first day. For the first time, Emily Carter felt the quiet satisfaction of knowing she had truly earned her place, not just as a recruit, but as a leader. The dawn was pale and gray over Fort Wilcox, the sky heavy with clouds that promised rain. The base was unusually quiet, not the relaxed calm after an exercise, but the tense stillness that precedes a major test. Emily Carter stood at the edge of the training field, boots sinking slightly into the wet gravel, rifle slung over her shoulder, her eyes scanning the perimeter. Today wasn't just another exercise. This was the final test, the culmination of everything she had learned, endured, and earned. The colonel was present, flanked by Rivera and other senior officers. Every recruit on base had heard the whispers. This test was legendary. One squad would attempt a full-scale urban extraction mission under live fire conditions, complete with simulated hostiles, timed objectives, and unexpected crises. Only flawless leadership would see a squad through. Emily's squad gathered behind her, tense but ready. They looked to her, not with skepticism, but with trust. Daniels, Peterson, and Mitchell all waited silently, knowing that their survival today depended on following her commands precisely. She stepped forward. Listen carefully. Today's mission will challenge everything you know. Obstacles, ambushes, and distractions will come from every angle. We move together. We cover each other. We adapt, no hesitation. Understood? Yes, ma'am. The squad shouted in unison. Emily nodded. Then let's move. The mission began immediately. The squad advanced through a mock urban village, the buildings battered and soaked from recent rain. Smoke grenades hissed and burst around them, creating near-zero visibility. The smell of cordite and wet wood filled the air. The first challenge came unexpectedly. A simulated explosion rocked the North Street, sending debris flying. Daniels stumbled and fell, striking his shoulder. Emily moved instantly. Peterson, suppressing fire. Mitchell, flank left. Daniels, stay low and follow me. She grabbed Daniels' arm and pulled him into cover behind a fallen wall, keeping her rifle aimed at the simulated threats. Every command was concise, every movement purposeful. The squad's trust in her allowed them to react faster than the enemy anticipated. The colonel watched from the observation tower, noting every decision, every calculated risk. Rivera's brow was furrowed in admiration. Emily had transformed from the quiet recruit into a tactical leader capable of commanding under extreme pressure. As they advanced deeper into the village, the next crisis hit. Mitchell's communications gear failed, cutting off contact with other observation points. The squad was isolated, cut off from external guidance. Emily didn't panic. She assessed the situation quickly. We continue on pre-planned route. Eyes sharp, ears sharper. I'll signal movements. Follow exactly. They moved silently through mud-soaked streets, every footstep deliberate. Shadows flitted across windows, and faint noises suggested enemy patrols were close. Suddenly, a simulated hostage was spotted, tied to a chair in a dimly lit building. Hostile silhouettes guarded the perimeter. Emily crouched, scanning angles. Peterson, cover right flank. Daniels, create distraction left. Mitchell, and I move to secure hostage. Keep calm, keep quiet. The squad executed perfectly, each member moving with precision. Daniels tossed a flash device, drawing enemy attention. Peterson fired carefully, providing suppressing cover. Emily and Mitchell slipped in, cutting the bindings and guiding the hostage to safety. No sooner had they secured the hostage than a new threat emerged. An unexpected obstacle, a mock landslide blocking the exit path, forced the team to adapt on the fly. The clock was ticking, and every second counted. Emily paused only briefly, eyes scanning the terrain, calculating options. Alternate extraction route through alley behind Building C. Follow my lead. Move fast, stay low. The squad obeyed instantly. Mud and debris slowed them, bullets from the simulation pinging against walls around them. Emily's voice remained calm, cutting through the chaos. Right flank, cover me. Step carefully. Check each doorway. Daniels, watch rear. For the first time in her experience, the squad was fully unified under her leadership. Hesitation was gone. Every movement executed exactly as Emily directed. The chaotic sounds of smoke and simulated gunfire were just background. She was completely focused. The final leg of the mission was the most dangerous. A narrow bridge over a water-filled trench awaited them. Simulated hostiles had positioned themselves strategically to cut off escape. The team had no choice but to cross under fire. Emily assessed the angles in seconds. Daniels first, distract left. Peterson, right. Mitchell, secure center. I'll go last, covering extraction. Everyone, stay low. The squad moved in perfect synchronization. Daniels' quick suppression allowed Peterson to flank, while Mitchell provided cover for the hostage. Emily brought up the rear, neutralizing threats with calculated shots. Mud splashed, rain soaked them, and simulated bullets hissed past, but the team emerged unscathed. As they reached the far side, the green beacon of the extraction point glowed brightly, signaling success. Emily's heart pounded, but she maintained composure. She lowered her rifle, signaling the squad to regroup. The observation post erupted in applause. Colonel McAllister descended from the tower, her expression a mixture of pride and approval. "Carter," she said, voice loud and clear, "you have demonstrated exceptional leadership. Your squad executed every maneuver flawlessly. You adapted under fire, improvised where necessary, and ensured the safety of every member. Effective immediately, you are recognized as a team leader with permanent authority for field operations." "Well done." Emily nodded respectfully. "Thank you, ma'am." Rivera stepped forward, clapping once. "You've earned this, not just because you succeeded, but because you earned the trust of every member of your team. That's leadership." Daniels threw an arm around Emily's shoulder, laughing through exhaustion. "Looks like we're officially under your command now, Carter. And honestly, I wouldn't want it any other way." Peterson smirked, muttering, "Still can't believe it. The quiet recruit leads the squad." Emily smiled faintly. "Not quiet, focused." Back at the barracks, the squad debriefed. Emily went through every decision, every maneuver, pointing out strengths and areas for improvement. The team hung on every word, not because they were forced to, but because they respected her insight. For the first time, Emily felt a deep sense of belonging. The ridicule, the doubt, and the whispers of mockery were gone. She had proven herself not just to the squad, not just to the colonel, but to herself. She was a leader. She was capable. And she had earned her place. That night, as she lay in her bunk, Emily stared at the ceiling, reflecting on the journey. She thought of the first day, mocked, underestimated, overlooked. And now, after countless drills, crises, and moments under fire, she had transformed not into someone loud and boastful, but into someone strong, decisive, and respected. Her father's words echoed in her mind. Quiet isn't weakness. Quiet is listening. And when the moment comes, a quiet strike can change everything. Emily smiled softly. She had struck. She had led. And she knew this was only the beginning. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new obstacles, and new missions. But she would meet them as she had met every trial so far, calm, precise, and unstoppable. The quiet recruit had become a force to be reckoned with. And Fort Wilcox would never forget her name.